Have you had that feeling yet this year? That quiet, nagging sense of familiarity. The feeling that you've seen this movie before. Not the big, dramatic plot points, but the small things. The texture of the air on a Tuesday morning. The specific kind of anxiety that arrives with the spring thaw. The exact same one you felt last year. The familiar loop of conversation you have with your parents on the phone every Sunday. The sudden realisation in late autumn that another year has slipped by, and the promises you made to yourself in January feel like echoes from a distant past. If you're nodding right now, I want you to know something. You are not imagining it. It's not just a mood, and it isn't a sign of failure. It is a signal, and it's your own deep awareness, gently tapping you on the shoulder, trying to get your attention. It's you, waking up just enough to notice the track you're on, because that's what it is, a track. Most of us are living our lives on a loop, a perfectly designed circle that brings us right back to where we started, year after year. And the track itself is made of something so simple, so invisible, that we almost never think to question it. It's made of our habits. Look at how a day is built. We tend to think of our days as a series of random choices and events. We react to traffic, to an email, to a mood swing, to what someone else says. But the underlying structure is anything but random. Your day isn't a series of choices. It's a sequence that runs almost automatically. It's a set of instructions you feed into your reality from the moment you open your eyes. Think about your morning. What is the very first piece of information you allow into your mind? Is it the feeling of the sheets, the sound of birds, a sense of gratitude for a new day? Or is it the blue light of your phone screen? Is it a news headline that immediately tightens your stomach? Is it an email from work that pulls you into problem-solving mode before your feet have even touched the floor? Is it scrolling through the highlight reels of other people's lives, starting your own day with a subtle feeling of comparison and lack? That first move isn't a small thing. It is the foundational command for the next 24 hours. It's the note you strike that the rest of the day will harmonise with. You are, in that moment, telling your entire being what reality is about today. Is it about peace, or is it about threat? Is it about your own centre, or is it about the demands of the outside world? That one habit is the first domino. The rest of the day often just follows that initial pattern. The hurried coffee, the tense commute, the reactive conversations, the search for distraction in the evening. And when you repeat those instructions day after day, you are not just building a day, you are laying down the code for your week, your month, and your year. Repeating the instructions forces the outcome to repeat itself. It's the simple, unbreakable mechanics of how our consciousness works. The feeling of being in a loop isn't a punishment. It's just cause and effect, playing out on a grand scale. So, what we're going to do together is a gentle audit. And please, let's remove any charge from that word. This is not a test. It's not about finding what you're doing wrong or grading your performance. This has nothing to do with judgment. Imagine you have been living in a beautifully furnished room your entire life, but the lights have always been off. You know the room by heart. You know how to get from the bed to the door without stumbling. You know where the chairs are. You navigate it from memory from habit. This audit, these 12 habits we're going to look at, are not about rearranging the furniture in the dark. It is simply the act of walking over to the wall and turning on the light switch. For the first time, you just get to see it all. You see the layout. You see the pathways that are worn into the carpet from walking the same route over and over. You see the clutter on a table you'd forgotten was even there. You see the beautiful view from a window that has been covered by a curtain for years. The purpose of this is not to feel bad about the mess or the worn out carpet. The purpose is just to see the architecture of your personal loop, to observe with kindness and curiosity the unconscious patterns that have been shaping your reality all this time. We can't change what we can't see. But the moment we see it, the moment the light comes on, everything becomes possible. The pattern is no longer in charge. You are. We're just going to turn on the lights for 12 key areas of your life and notice what's really there. No fixing, no forcing, just seeing. By the way, our shared space of light and awareness is on its way to 100,000 people. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and brings this moment closer. So the light is on. You're standing there, in the middle of your life, seeing the patterns for what they are. The automatic way you reach for your phone. The loop of worry that plays every night before you sleep. The predictable conversations. The worn out emotional pathways. The first feeling for most people when this happens is overwhelm. It feels like there are a dozen things that need to be fixed, a dozen battles that need to be fought. And right there, that feeling of needing to wage a war against yourself is the biggest trick the old pattern plays to keep you in the loop. It makes the task of changing seem so enormous, so exhausting, that you just give up before you even start. You flick the lights back off and go back to navigating in the familiar dark. But there's a secret about the way reality works, a kind of surprising, beautiful math to it all. And it's this: you don't need to change everything. You don't need to launch a massive campaign of self-improvement. You only need to change one tiny thing consistently. Think of a colossal cargo ship, miles long, weighing thousands of tons. How does it turn in the middle of the vast ocean? It turns because of a tiny rudder, a piece of metal that is absurdly small compared to the size of the ship. The rudder doesn't fight the ocean. It doesn't push the whole ship with brute force. It just creates a tiny, persistent change in the flow of water. And that tiny, persistent change is enough to redirect the entire vessel. Your life is that ship, and your habits are that rudder. 1% change feels like nothing. It's almost insulting to the scale of the problem you feel you have. But reality is not a collection of separate objects. It is a vast living web of connections. Everything touches everything else. When you introduce a small, consistent, new instruction into one part of that web, the entire network has to rearrange itself around that new information. The change doesn't stay where you put it. It sends ripples out in every direction. It creates a cascade of consequences you could never have predicted. This is why forcing a big change, like vowing to go to the gym 7 days a week when you've been doing nothing, almost always fails. It's too much force. The system resists. But a tiny change, a gentle nudge, the system barely notices it. It just adapts. So, out of the 12 areas we're looking at, I don't want you to try and change all of them. I want you to pick 3, maybe just 2, maybe even just one. And your choice shouldn't be based on fixing your biggest, most obvious flaw. This isn't about self-punishment. It's a strategic choice. You are looking for the point of most leverage. You are looking for the tiny rudder. Where in your day, in your week, does one small change create the biggest possible ripple? For many people, it's the first 5 minutes of their day. Changing the habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning to a habit of sitting in silence for 3 minutes, or stretching, or drinking a glass of water while looking out the window. It seems laughably small, but that one change fundamentally alters the starting conditions of your entire day, which in turn alters your week and your year. Or maybe it's a communication habit. Maybe you have one weekly conversation with a loved one that always ends up in the same frustrating place. What have you decided? To change just one thing. Instead of defending your position, you just ask one more curious question. That's it. That's the whole change. You are introducing a new instruction into a very old pattern, and the pattern cannot run in the same way anymore. We are looking for the one small gear that, when turned just a little, moves the entire machine differently. This is a shift from thinking like a fighter to thinking like an architect. You are not at war with your old self. You're simply stepping back, seeing the blueprint, and making a tiny, elegant adjustment to the design. And here's the final, most important piece. The act of tracking this new habit isn't really for discipline. It's for awareness. It's the conscious act of watching a new future being built one day at a time. Every time you perform that new tiny action, you're casting a vote for a different reality. You're laying down a single brick in the foundation of a new year. You're not trying to break 2024. You're simply beginning to live 2025 right now, in this moment, with this small choice. The old loop doesn't get shattered in a dramatic explosion. It just fades. It starves from a lack of attention. It withers because the energy that used to feed it is now being gently redirected day by day to building something new. You are moving from being a passive passenger on a train that's going in circles to being the one who gently, quietly lays down a new track, leading to a destination you actually choose. If this video changed something in you, write in the comments, "My tiny choices create my new year." Write it as your promise.